Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to look over some news that's coming out of Marvel Studios, and more specifically news about Deadpool 3. Now, I did a video previously stating my concerns because they had changed the writing team from the first two Deadpool films. They had instead had two sisters who are writers for the show Bob's Burgers. They had them come over, and they're going to be writing the script for Deadpool 3. And that is Wendy and Lizzie Molyneux, and I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. The spelling of it is very a lot of silent letters. Let's just put it that way. But going forward from that, we got news today via a report with Collider with Kevin Feige, where Feige stated in plain English that yes, Deadpool 3 will be based in the MCU, and Deadpool 3 will keep its R rating that its two predecessors did have. Now, this brings up a whole slew of questions, but also we still have some concerns. So let's examine the MCU portion of it first. Now that's probably the easier of the two things to explain in this, because they're setting up a whole multiverse thing where they're going to be bringing in a bunch of different characters from a bunch of different universes. They're doing it with the Spider-Man movie. They're going to be doing it with the Doctor Strange movie. That's also a tie-in with that. So you're going to have this whole multiverse of crap that's just going on in the MCU. So it would make sense if you're having another universe kind of collide or invade, and characters can kind of jump from one universe to the other and back and forth, at least for a little while. Again, in the movies, again, I'm assuming most of this is going to wind up getting explained either in Spider-Man 3 or Doctor Strange 2. But regardless of that, it would make an opening for Deadpool to come over into the regular universe, because this is the supposedly, again, if we're taking what Kevin Feige is saying at face value, and I'm going to for the time being, even though I'm going to very, very cautiously, Deadpool comes over, and it's the same Deadpool from those first two films. It's still Ryan Reynolds in the suit. The suit is the same. The suit has not changed. The only difference is he is now no longer in the Fox X-Men universe, and he is instead in the MCU, which, again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think getting more people for Deadpool to kind of play around with a studio that's willing to do that, I think that is ultimately a good thing. I would love to see Deadpool and Spider-Man in the same frame if they could, get their Spider-Man stuff nailed down a little bit. But if they ever did stuff like that, that would be good. When they reboot the X-Men, there'll be some interesting stuff going on there, since he's technically from another universe. So that would be kind of interesting if they actually did go that route, but I think that's probably how they're going to wind up introducing him, because he literally is the same character. Now, the bigger questions come on the latter half of this, and that is that Deadpool 3 will indeed be rated R. Now, here's my only question to this, is how much of a rated R are we talking here? Because this might be one of those type of things where Disney could pull a very easy bait and switch. They throw a couple of fucks in the movie just to get an R rating. I think you have to say fuck at least twice, maybe a little bit more and more obscenely. In film, in order to get an R rating specifically for language. Now, I could see them going that route and just tossing a couple F-bombs in the movie and just making a PG-13 movie. It would make absolutely no sense, but Disney tends to kind of do those things when you get close to that R rating, because generally they do not make rated R films. I don't think in their history, I don't think they've ever made a rated R film directly coming out of Disney or any of their migrating satellite studios. There have been other things that Disney has had hands in over time that kind of wound up being rated R later on, or maybe they should have been rated R, but regardless, I'm not going to go into that. So you have the R rating, but the other thing with that is it doesn't fix the problem of my concerns with the writing department. Every great movie is built on a really good script. a really compelling and a really interesting script with good, well-written characters. That is the foundation of any film from a creative standpoint, is the script. That is what you're going off of. That is the template. Even though in production, a lot of the times they will change that template on the fly or alter lines or stuff like that, it's still, ideally, at the end of the day, it's still the same story. You still have the same beats, even though you're changing little details here and there, or removing stuff or omitting stuff, or cutting lines, things like that. So if you don't have good writing on this thing, then whatever comes out of that is not going to be good either. Now, sometimes a movie can outshine a bad script. It has happened before. There's very, very few examples of it that I can think of. Maybe something like a Rambo, where they basically, they had a horrible, horrible script, and Sylvester Stallone basically told them, like, yeah, just cut all my dialogue because it's fucking horrible. And that's why he's silent through most of that film, is because they actually had to remove all of his dialogue because it was just that god-awful. The only thing they really left in was that end scene where he's, screaming at the police and stuff. That was a film that had a terrible script that they turned into something good by altering it on the fly, which was, again, that was a good creative decision by Sylvester Stallone. And they were good. They were good enough to, allow him to do that. But I think he was also producer on that at the time. Anyway, regardless, it doesn't solve the writing issue, and they could pull that bait and switch, even though it would be a total waste of time in order to do so. My advice here would be, I shouldn't say my advice, but my hope here is that what Kevin Feige is saying is at face value, and it's what we expect out of the Deadpool franchise. Now, he's not a moron. He's obviously seen the Deadpool films. Even if it wasn't, out of pleasure, he probably had to go watch them at some point. So he knows what kind of humor exists within those movies. He knows the type of that extremely gory kind of slapstick, splatstick kind of like weird humor that goes on in there, in addition to all, the dialogue and the joke telling and the back and forth and the snarkiness. So you kind of have two levels to that. Now, the writing team, like I said, the writing team that they have, I think they can work around the snarkiness and the wittiness. I think that could be passable. I think that could be fine. The problem is when you get to the physical comedy, like the stuff. I mean, I assume that Ryan Reynolds and the people that are some of the other creative people that are going to be behind this movie are going to be able to at least think up a few little slapstick gags to shove in there if they have to. But I don't know if they're going to be that creative with his powers. Because really, again, Bob's Burgers is a show that's mostly based around jokes and dialogue. The animation is not top notch. Let's just put it that way. It's good enough for an adult sitcom on a network television station. That's basically it. It's Simpsons level animation, like old, not even like really new Simpsons, like semi-old Simpsons animation. So that's something that's very, very different than Deadpool, because that does not have a shit ton of gore and F-bombs in it. They don't say fuck every 3 seconds in Bob's Burgers, so they're going to have to definitely take off the filter, which is another thing too, because their writing credits, and again, we looked up their writing credits when I did the video on them, and there's not much after Bob's Burgers. Like, that's a majority of their writing credits. I think one of the sisters has more than the other, but I can't remember which one. But regardless, that's most of their, especially their comedy. That's really most of their comedy, almost all of it. So, if you want a Deadpool movie with Bob's Burgers style comedy, I guess you get your wish. But that's the thing too, is that they've trained themselves in their comedic deliveries in terms of their writing ideas for it. They've always tailored it toward a television audience, which is filtered through the FCC. So their writing style is inherently adapted to that. Now, again, if you're a good writer, then you can adapt to different things, but they need to take advantage of the R rating if they're going to even give it to the movie. And again, they've confirmed that they plan on making it rated R. So if you're going to do that, you got to go all out. You got to do what the other two Deadpool movies do. You got to do insane shit. You got to have him get his legs and arms ripped off and get him sliced up and have him shooting people in the head and have him making dick jokes while telling people to go fuck themselves and shooting guys in the dick. You know, you got to have shit like that in there, because if you don't, then it's just a waste of a film, and you're just going to piss off the Deadpool fans that Fox built for you, by the way. And piss them off, and so that they'll never consume your product, and they'll start hating Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, which has kind of already started to happen a little bit, at least with Ryan Reynolds. He's definitely floating a bit more towards the snowflake side of things on the political spectrum. Let's just put it that way. But like I said, that's just kind of my interpretation of this news. Like, it is good that we're hearing it. You know, it's good that it's literally being said in an interview with Kevin Feige, but at the same time, there's a lot of ways this thing could go sideways still. We are way far away from this being from saying, you know, we're in the clear. This is a good movie. But you know, I think it's a good step in the right direction if he's being transparent. But I want to know what you think. Are you happy that Deadpool is going to be officially joining the MCU in Deadpool 3, and that it's also going to be Ryan Reynolds coming back and portraying the same character, and that it's going to be rated R? Or, you know, are you kind of just, you know, are you pronouncing this thing dead on arrival already because of all the stuff that, you know, you think Disney is probably going to do with it? You know, all the hurdles and stuff it's going to have to go through to get through the production at Disney as opposed to Fox. You know, put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?